What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilkin. We need to talk about Wistoria chapter 33. We are, I think, 12, 13 chapters from catching up, pretty close at least. And when we left off, Will essentially is before, like everybody at this point in the tower. He's got no faction, no allegiance, and someone just literally yelled, "Stop everything." And dude is like, what he does cannot be called magic. And I can't disagree with him. Now, arguably that other form he has probably is a form of magic. That's kind of what's very much been alluded to. So it would be nice to see that other form come into play. But he's like, this dude is not magical. Like, he might be powerful. He might be able to direct magic, manipulate magic, but he can't actually create and utilize his own magic. Like, that is the thing. And Elfie steps up. She gets mad. She steps in. Like, old girl's got a temper, and I appreciate that. But yeah, he's like, he's nothing but a barbarian. Dude cannot form his own magic, manipulate his own magic. He is, for all intents and purposes, a warrior, but not a mage. And yeah, he shuts everything down. He's like, no. Like, we are going to stop this right here, right now. I've got to test it, and we can prove. And this is very reminiscent of what we saw back in chapter 2, chapter 3 with Edward. Like, very similar, except this time he spawns these kinds of monsters here. And he mentions, he's like, these things are completely impervious to physical attacks. He's like, they are a magical creation. They are not it kind of seems like they are monsters made of magic. But still, Will mentions that they kind of conform to the whole idea of monsters. Something that's kind of borrowed from Danmachi is that the monsters have a core, and once that core is destroyed, then they can be kind of like the Phoenix familiar that Sion used during the prior battle. And he's like, these cannot be defeated with anything but magic. They absolutely are impervious to all your physical attacks. And even Will's like, he takes a couple slices at this thing and notices, he's like, this is not going to work. And everyone's kind of sitting back going, well, I mean, dude's got a point. I guess we're going to have to see how this plays out. The tower is the culmination of all the magical abilities. Like, it is, like, magic is everything here. Yeah, kind of makes sense. And Will's doing everything he can. Like, I cannot wait to see this animated. I kind of get the feeling this was going to wind up being season 3 based on how everything has played out so far. But this is going to be an insane amount of fun to watch, because this chapter is going to be an entire episode by itself of just Will going all out and just having it have no effect whatsoever. And he's like, the body is made of goo. And he's like, yeah, dude, what do you think? This is the tower. You're not dealing with you're not dealing with the average Saiyan warrior here. You are dealing with the tower. We are geniuses. We have thought about everything. It's done. You're through, my guy. Like, that's it. And you can see Willie here even stabs it, and he's like, there's the core. Except, now it's like unleashing an electric attack. And he's like, so on top of all the other stuff, this thing's got the ability to stun lock the opponent too. Like, it is the both perfect but also worst case scenario for Will. There's practically nothing he can do. Now, personally, I wonder what happens if he transforms. Will that change everything? Will he then be able to manipulate magic? Is that like his magical form? Does he have like, a mage version of whatever he does? And everyone's kind of like, we'll help him out. We'll give him a hand. And dude's like, no, that ain't gonna work. Listen, this is his test. if you get involved, you are corrupting the... And he's not wrong. Like, this is the biggest test ever. And he's like, we're not assessing you guys. We are assessing him and him alone. If he cannot do this on his lonesome, he's essentially, he calls him a pretender. Being fair, I kind of see the guy's point. Now, this is a funny situation here. Not funny, haha, but just more curious. Because Sion even starts rooting him on. He's like, Will, you got this. And I gotta say, I thought it would take a lot longer to get to this point, but Sion is like becoming his biggest advocate. This is a dude who was his biggest hater and is now his biggest advocate, and I'm not mad about it at all. But of course, the monster kind of comes in, and he dodges, he bobs, he weaves, he does everything he can, but ultimately his attacks and even his defense are pretty useless. And he's like, I'm not giving up. And he's like, dude snaps his finger, like the Thanos snap, and those monsters just dissipate. And he's like, we're over. This is done. Anything further, it's a completely fruitless endeavor. You have failed the test. Now, there is a distinct argument here. He may have seen that Will eventually, like, he had the chance. Because if you look right here at this cell, he's got that look in his eye. That's the courage look. That's the one they were talking about before. That's the one that makes all the difference. And there's a lot of argument here that, potentially, like, you see his hair starting to, like, obviously it's windswept here, but his hair is starting to just, like, curl up a little bit, and his eyes are starting to change a little bit. I have the distinct impression in my mind, and we might see this in the anime, though Will is starting to change. He's starting to, like, adopt that other form, and he's really starting to go beyond his normal limits. And this guy probably sees it, and that's why he calls the test. But it's really hard to tell. A lot of it's left up to the reader, and that's kind of what I take away from these last 2 pages. But he abruptly is like, we're done. You failed the test. That's it. He's unfit. He's unsuited for the tower, and there's no point in going any further. And that's it. He calls it off. And he's like, you will remain colorless. Because remember, color was like, the outfit they wear takes on the traits of whatever house or magical faction that they belong to. And he's like, you failed the test. You'll remain colorless. And we have a test coming up. And if you pass that at that point, we will then reassess the whole situation. But right now, you and I think there's like 3 or 4 other dudes there. You guys are all pretty much like the end of the road. Now, he does mention here that we can study him. And maybe like some of what he's capable of, some of what he does might be of use, later on down the road. But he's like, we're done. We're through. That's it. And, yeah. They even call him out pretty much. They're like, oh, so you want a lab rat. Cool. Got it. Yep. And they're like, whatever you want to do, my guy, it's up to you. He even mentions the mysteries of the 5th source can be unraveled. Basically meaning that maybe whatever he has physically, they can apply to mages. Essentially, the legendary super mage or whatever. And Elfie's not having it. Like, old girl is absolutely beside herself. Just ticked off. And I can't blame her. And dude straight up calls her out. He's like, this is no time for a tantrum. And she's like, I am about to lose my absolute garbage. She's like, I am done here. You people are awful. And, love this character archetype. I every single time. I adore it. He's like, are you done? Are you all seriously through? Because I'm leaving. I'm out. Like, you know, we've had our fun. He's not worthy. We're moving on, you know? And pretty much they just kind of call it there. They're like, look, that's that. The next generation has been chosen. You guys are about to go into like the hardest test ever. Normally you'd have to wait 6 months. Instead, we're going to do it in a week because we have lost a lot of people. A lot of people. And she's like, the next section of your exam is going to be a literal physical test. And it is going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. We expect blood, sweat, tears, literally. That includes you, Will. I mean, it's basically it's open season on Will. It is absolutely open season on Will. Everybody is pretty much just kind of giving their thing. And I love how Elfie and Felvis show back up, and basically, old girl appears just like, with that, the charade is over, and then everything just dissipates, and everybody is gone. And it seems like even the other factions have left with all their people, and it's just the colorless, including Julius here, chilling. And he's like, we have to do another test in a week. The hell. And Will straight up collapses. And he's like, you know, the funny thing is, I actually kind of look forward to it. Through thick, through thin, no matter how bad they treat him, he is just moving forward. And he's like, all right, let's do this. They can push me around. They can kick me down. I'm going to do everything I can to prove them wrong. And I love it. And this is actually kind of an interesting moment here because you have hot-headed dude and one of his kind of subordinates here. And he's like, that's unexpected. He's like, I expected you to really be about that. Like, that would be normally your thing. And he's like, you don't get me, do you? You absolutely don't understand what I'm about at all. Nothing builds more character than rising from the depths of despair. Y'all, that is... I mean, he's got a point. It's kind of a crappy point, but he's got a point. That said, that's the end of the chapter. Will is about to absolutely be put through. You think the tests he's gone through before have been pretty rugged? He's about to just... Basically, they're going to try to break this dude. And it is going to be rugged. But we're going to be here for it. Chapter 34 is coming up on Sunday. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. The story just keeps getting better somehow. It's crazy. If you guys are liking it, make sure that thumbs up. And I'll see you again in a few days.